On June 15th, 1991, the Earth demonstrated its awesome world-altering power. Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines erupted in the second largest volcanic event of the 20th century. The explosion was cataclysmic, blasting over 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide and ash into the stratosphere. But the most profound impact wasn't on the ground below, it was on the entire globe. High above the clouds, these sulfur particles mixed with water, creating a vast, thin veil of reflective aerosols. This planetary sunshade spread around the world, and for the next 2 years, it cooled the entire planet, dropping average global temperatures by a staggering 0.5 degrees Celsius. It was a natural disaster, but for a handful of climate scientists, it was also an accidental, planetary-scale experiment, a terrifying yet invaluable data point. It proved unequivocally that we could deliberately cool the Earth, and it gave some scientists a terrifyingly audacious idea. As the world grappled with the escalating climate crisis, this question evolved from a fringe academic curiosity into a serious and deeply controversial proposal. The idea is called solar radiation management. The plan is a direct imitation of Pinatubo, but with calculated precision. It involves sending a fleet of specialized aircraft into the stratosphere, the stable atmospheric layer far above our weather systems. Flying at over 60,000 feet, these planes would continuously spray a fine mist of reflective particles, perhaps the same sulfate aerosols as a volcano, or maybe engineered materials like calcium carbonate, to create and maintain a persistent artificial shield. The goal isn't to block out the sun, but to subtly dim it, to reflect just 1 to 2% of incoming solar radiation back into space. In theory, this tiny adjustment would be enough to offset the warming caused by our greenhouse gas emissions, effectively putting a brake on rising global temperatures. It's a breathtakingly simple concept with planet-altering implications. A proposal to seize the Earth's thermostat, turning a natural phenomenon into a deliberate global-scale technological intervention. This is no longer a concept confined to science fiction. It's a very real and very sobering conversation happening in the halls of top universities and government think tanks. Faced with the terrifying prospect of runaway climate change, some scientists are reluctantly exploring this as a last-ditch emergency brake. The idea is to artificially cool the planet, buying us precious time, but this is a devil's bargain, and the risks are monumental, potentially even greater than the problem we're trying to solve. We would be intentionally seizing the planet's thermostat, launching a global-scale experiment with no control group and no reset button. This is an intervention in the complex, chaotic systems that govern our entire world, gambling with the only home we have. The most terrifying unknown is how this would alter regional weather. By reflecting sunlight, we could inadvertently weaken or move the Asian and African monsoons, threatening the water and food supply for billions of people. A solution for one part of the world could trigger catastrophic droughts in another, sparking unimaginable conflict. And even if it worked to cool the temperature, it's a band-aid on a gaping wound. It does nothing to stop the root cause, the relentless rise of CO2. That carbon dioxide would continue to dissolve into our oceans, making them progressively more acidic. Coral reefs would still bleach and die, and the marine food web could collapse. Perhaps most frightening of all is the concept of termination shock. Once we start, we can likely never stop. Halting the process would cause the masked warming to rebound with terrifying speed, a sudden temperature spike so rapid that neither ecosystems nor human civilization could possibly adapt. It's a commitment in perpetuity, a burden we would place on every future generation. We find ourselves at a precipice, a moral and technological crossroads of our own making. To one side lies the path of acceptance, a future defined by the known escalating consequences of climate change, a world of superstorms, relentless droughts, and vanishing coastlines. To the other, a leap into the unknown, the audacious, terrifying prospect of engineering our planet's climate, risking unforeseen consequences that could be just as catastrophic. The most immediate question is one of control. Who would hold the planetary thermostat? There are no international treaties, no governing bodies prepared for this reality. A single wealthy nation or a private corporation could, in theory, act unilaterally, appointing itself the world's climate guardian. This raises the specter of a new kind of conflict, weather warfare, where one nation's attempt to cool itself could inadvertently trigger a devastating drought or monsoon in another. What happens when one country's salvation becomes another's ruin? And who gets to decide the ideal temperature? The climate that benefits agriculture in the Northern Hemisphere might decimate the vital monsoon rains that billions depend on in the South. The very act of deploying such technology would create winners and losers on a global scale, likely exacerbating the very inequalities that make developing nations most vulnerable to climate change in the first place. It's a question of profound climate justice with no easy answers. Ultimately, this idea forces us to look at ourselves in the mirror. It is the ultimate expression of our power, the sheer technological hubris to believe we can seize the controls of the planet. But it is also the ultimate admission of our failure, a failure to act responsibly, to curb our emissions, and to address the root causes of this crisis. We are contemplating a planetary-scale technical fix for what is, at its heart, a human problem of consumption, greed, and denial. This is Pandora's box, containing a solution that may be worse than the problem it's meant to solve. It's the break glass in case of emergency plan for a planetary fire we started ourselves. And so our greatest, most powerful innovation might be the one we must pray we never ever have to use.